here we are, folks. Myself and Zach Failed Basic Flight, aka Brightest Day, is in the house this evening. Um, just a normie, he can't make it tonight. And Culture, at last check, when I talked to him, he said he's got some stuff going on behind the scenes he has to deal with. So he may or may not be here. No big. Zach and I have it all handled, and we have a great episode for you tonight. We have a very interesting one. It's called Dirty Hands, and this kind of deals with the labor side of the fleet. So what you don't see, as far as the everyday, the production ships, the people that make the bullets, the people that make, the goods that the fleet uses, the services. Very interesting episode. And all of this sort of culminates in this sort of thing where everybody looks to the chief as the fleet's labor leader. So we're going to really dive into that and pick up on it. We've got a great synopsis for you tonight, and it's just a really good Pegasus actual for you guys to tune into. So I hope you thoroughly enjoy it. And that being said, I will toss it over to our buddy Zach here and let him say hello and kind of give just his little overview on it.
Thanks, Drew. Yeah, this is an episode that I actually remember not fondly, but I remember often. Like, I constantly think about this episode, even when I'm not thinking about Battlestar, just because and especially today when I was rewatching it over the last couple of days, is extremely poignant to what's going on. Like, it's eerie how many episodes we're watching now that are, in touch with what's going on today.
Yeah, it's funny because I know a lot of us, and you guys know the other streams I do, obviously. You guys that watch my High Heresy stuff, you know where I lean and how I look at what's going on in the world right now. And, I'm very torn on unions. On one hand, they can be very good. On the other, well, they can certainly be abused.
I would say the same problem a greedy, corrupt union has is the same problem a greedy, corrupt corporation has, and it's the greed and corruption. And that's a human thing. So.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, it's all too true. So, we will we'll go ahead and get into it. Then, do you have like any comments before we get started, Scott? Like, as far as just anything that kind of like stands out to you in total about the episode, or you just want to kind of we'll get there when we get there.
If by Scott you mean Zach.
Or Zach, yeah, sorry.
No, I think a lot of it's going to get covered as we go along, so I can jump right into it if you're ready.
All right. Well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and launch the Alert Fighters.
Okay. As Drew said before, this is Season 3, Episode 16, entitled Dirty Hands. The episode opens on Galactica's hangar bay, as Tyrrell and his crew prep Racetrack's Raptor for its next sortie. We quickly see that there is a massive imbalance between the amount of work needed to be done and the hands available to do it. As Racetrack sets to take off, Celix returns with fresh laundry for deckhands Figursky, Pollux, and Redford. As Figursky, and Pollux converse, she informs them, rather angrily, that her application for Viper pilot training was denied, despite her high marks in the written exam, citing her critical position and mission degradation. Tyrrell attempts to apologize for the situation, But Figursky cracks one last joke, and Celix attacks him for it. Celix returns to her laundry duty unhappily.
Yeah, I kind of like, Celix was one of those background characters among the deck gang. She kind of became like a bit of a fan favorite. And I know that when this episode was starting, people were very kind of downtrodden because they wanted to see her in the Viper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, they kind of just come up and tell her, oh, you didn't make it. And it's like, So it was a gut punch for the fans that really enjoy her character. But, not all is lost. Not all is what it appears. We'll just leave it at that. So go on, Zach.
Okay. And I agree. This is a nice little gut punch and then victory for her character as we go on. So, as Racetrack begins her mission, a malfunction occurs in the reaction control jets and one of the main engines of her Raptor. The bird spins wildly out of control toward Colonial 1, and the pilot, along with her ECO, eject, leaving 50 tons of Raptor hurtling towards President Roslin. After the opening credits, we see the damage to a bulkhead of the commercial liner. The Raptor struck only a glancing blow, but hit with sufficient force to cause a dozen injuries, including to Tori Foster. Fortunately, no one was killed. Admiral Adama assists the president with moving her office to another area of the ship while repairs take place. Citing the cramped nature of the new accommodations, Adama slyly offers her one of Galactica's beds. The conversation shifts to the cause of the crash, impurities in the Tilium fuel spurring from the refinery ship. The foreman of the ship, one Zeno Fenner, has a mountain of complaints and demands about working conditions and other things. The two joke with each other about Adama's seemingly newfound hope toward finding Earth.
Yeah, it was very interesting that we kind of see that this guy already, before we even get into the stuff with the chief, this guy it has quite the list of demands and quite the agenda, and it's just crazy because this crash was entirely preventable if you look at it, because it was simply bad fuel mixture. That'd be like the equivalent of you guys see the trucks bringing the fuel to your local gas stations from the depot. That would be like if they were corrupting the mix that was being sent to those depots, and then a lot of cars started having malfunctions because of the terrible fuel. So it was it's very 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 interesting, and I like how they did it going that route. So we've got a nice discussion in the chat, by the way, if you didn't notice here.
Oh yeah, I've noticed. I think Roof Korean's going to be on fire tonight.
Yeah, Roof Korean is just throwing out great points. Fury Kitten has some great perspectives too. Fury Kitten's in the UK, and has more of that both side kind of centrist perspective, and I love it. I love our chat. Our chat is so great. Hail Keck44, by the way.
Best chat on YouTube.
Great to see you. Wake Down, great to see you as well. Mercale, Emperor Corruption, saw you come in at the beginning, brother. Thank you. Of course, the aforementioned Roof Korean. And I am just very thankful that you guys are here. and you guys are just making a great killer discussion out of this. I love it. So keep it coming. If one thrust into a nurse during a job,
You need the previous comment for that.
Oh,
Talk about flip side of a coin.
Oh man, you guys. Korean makes a point. I just like the issuance of jobs and was instantly against the process, regardless of circumstances. In the military, I was a scout sniper. However fun as it would be, I would never be asked to fly. I mean, I understand that. I know for some people, that was a point of contention. Hail Zach7, great to see you. That was a point of contention as far as the lore and continuity of the show. Some people, were cool with them improvising, giving other people new primary jobs or different secondary jobs. People were fine with that. Other people said, yeah, it's kind of just, I don't know, would that really happen? I tend to think it could really happen simply because of reduced manpower, also just the reduced size of the fleet. There's a lot of things. So I was okay with it, but I know there were quite a few fans that did raise a bit of a dislike over that, and I totally get where you're coming from. So, anything to add, Zach?
I'm struggling to take a side on this because I could see both. I could see there's a lot of different viewpoints, and I could see all of them, which makes it a great episode for that reason. But it also makes it very difficult for me to say I'm solidly in one camp or another. I think that's the reason we follow Tyrell in this episode, is that he goes through this journey of seeing all these viewpoints and eventually becomes, he understands it in the beginning, the need for the fuel and the need to be not quite as authoritarian as Rosalind ends up being, but at the same time he understands the plight of the worker. There's interesting dichotomies, and I'm not going to take a solid stance on it just because I appreciate the viewpoints that are put forth.
All right. Well, let's continue, my friend.
Okay. A meeting between Fenner, Rosalind, and Adama starts heated. Fenner complains about 6 straight months of 18-hour shifts, as Adama reminds him that the 1 or 2 jumps they could perform if the Cylons arrive aren't enough of a margin of safety to outweigh that. Fenner notes that his complaints went unaddressed until fuel shortages arose, quoting an underground book written by Gaius Baltar. Rosalind has no patience for the extortion attempt and has him arrested. She then explains to the Admiral how a book Gaius had smuggled out of his cell has been reprinted and circulated, and threatens to have, quote, a good old-fashioned book burning. In their quarters, Callie admonishes Chief Tyrell for eating too much, in opposition to their recovery plan for vacuum exposure. The two discuss the growing issues regarding the distribution of labor among the fleet, with Callie noting that the assignments seem to line up with which colony a person happens to be born on. Even Galen's exception to this, Duala, is countered by Callie, noting that she was likely only promoted due to being married to an officer from Caprica. The chief then receives a call from the Admiral, who informs him that, due to Fenner's arrest, Tyrell would need to assemble a team to take over the refining operation. Before he leaves, Callie reminds him that although New Caprica is gone, the labor union they formed is still very much alive, if dormant.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting stuff there. And to those of us looking at the way that things are being censored now, Rosalind's comment about the good old-fashioned book burning was a bit of as much as you may like or dislike Gaius or agree with the Mama Dama's stance on the book, I mean, still, yeah. If you're anti-censorship, man, you raise some questions about Laura Roslind's character because she is becoming increasingly authoritarian.
Right. If she hadn't made a heel turn before, this was definitely the heel turn.
Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is, dude.
Yeah, that single moment, which is like a good old fashioned book burning. I don't think there's anyone that would justify that particular moment with her character.
Hail, Dexy Doodle. Great to see you this evening, Dexy. I did not know that you are a Battlestar Galactica fan. I hope that you enjoy the conversation and go back through and check out our previous reviews. This is one of the best shows on TV at the time, and very, very, very awesome to watch. Does inspire a lot of discussion, as Brightest Day just alluded to. Fury Kitten says, I don't identify with Gaius. He is just channeling his inner kitten.
Inner kitten. Nice.
Inner kitten. I like it. All right.
Okay. So, in the brig, Marines toss the cell where Gaius spends his days, and Rosalind presses him to give up the pages of his book, My Triumphs, My Mistakes. She attempts to bluff him, claiming to be the only one to have read the clandestine document. The two dual wills for a moment before the president orders the Marines to strip search Gaius as an act of dominance. Baltar stands strong, and before the search reaches an uncomfortable point, Messenger 6 convinces him to maintain his dignity by giving up the pages, which he produces from his waistband. Aboard the refinery ship, the Hitei Khan, Tyrrell arrives to investigate the operation. He is greeted by Cabot, a Union member from New Caprica. Tyrrell then realizes the truly minuscule amount of Tillium left in the silo, which had been kept secret by Fenner. Conditions aboard the ship are cramped, dirty, dark, deafeningly loud, and mortally dangerous. Cabot likens it to an A-bomb. But despite his pleas to maintain the downtime to perform maintenance and repairs, Tyrrell orders the conveyor started up. A young laborer named Milo tells the chief that it simply won't work, but everyone is silent as to why. Tyrrell conducts a visual inspection of a pressure relief outlet, noticing that the seals are missing, making the machinery unusable. The workers have hidden the seals, intentionally sabotaging the ship as protest.
Yeah, it was like pretty shocking. So you really got a sense of where the workers were coming from, as far as the actual working conditions. I know as we get further into it that they even had underage labor there, which was like, pretty crazy. It was, it was a shock to the system when you see this and when you get the whole scope of it. So you kind of understand Tyrrell sort of being like, well, his jaw sort of hit the floor.
Yeah, the moment you find out how old Milo is, you see the crack in his facade immediately. And then he starts looking around and locking eyes with everyone. And you see the humanity of the situation overtakes his need to follow orders.
Yeah.
And again, you get a good look at what these people have been working in. And then you understand that it's been 6 months with 18-hour days. And that's enough to crack most people. So these are fairly hardy people. And then to realize that they have utilized their situation as a weapon against those people who don't have any reference to what they're doing, and you gain some measure of respect for them outside of what you may have already had.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and continue, my friend.
Will do. We return to Galactica, where Tyrell briefs Rosalind and Adama on the situation, while simultaneously bargaining on behalf of the refinery workers, likening their nigh ceaseless work hours and inability to shift to other work to slave labor. Rosalind counters that other areas have been under similar stress. She rejects his calls, asking for a name to have an example made of. Tyrell reluctantly names Cabot, being dismissed before he can continue pleading his case. Later that night, unable to sleep, Chief visits Fenner and Cabot in the brig. We see that Cabot, driven by trauma-induced hallucinations, is harming himself. Tyrell argues with the two men to give up the location of the pressure relief seals, and Fenner eventually cracks, giving up the location. The seals are replaced, and young Milo requests to be the one to reactivate the machines, to which Tyrell agrees, but not without noticing how many of the crew of the ship are but children. Galen tries again to reason with Rosalind, who sees the passing of generational tribal knowledge as normal, if not ideal, among the fleet. Ceding to his point of how such a situation could breed generational class segregation, Laura offers to hold a lottery among those members of the fleet with skills applicable to the refinery to supplement the manpower. Later, a young man named Danny Noon tries to convince Galen that he was selected based on farm skills he simply does not possess. Tyrell considers releasing him before Fagursky warns against setting the precedent others may abuse. Afterward, as Galen walks away, he discovers the copy of Baltar's manifesto that has been circulating the deck, its words striking a note. So here we have this weird compromise that drives, I think, what Rukhreen's point is trying to make, where he doesn't agree with how they handled that situation.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That even like Gaius's manifesto totally resonated with Tyrell, because man, Tyrell was just like really not a fan. Dexy, thank you so much for hanging out. Please do. You're going to love next week, so don't miss next week's review for sure. So we'll see you then. So take care of yourself, Dexy Doodle. Hail.
And Drew, I will try to write the script for that, even though I won't be here to read it. So
Fury Kitten, thank you so much for the $2. Greatly appreciated, my friend. We definitely appreciate the love, because it all goes to helping keep the lights on, and also taking care of Mom, and you guys know, because you guys are all my friends. You know the situation, so thank you very much, and do appreciate that. And
shout out to Mama Heretic.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And she's had a little bit better day today, and I'm glad for that. But she's still not doing the greatest. Okay. If you want to add anything you wanted to add, Zach, or are we just going to keep going?
So this is actually the scene where we start to get a real glimpse of all of the various viewpoints, like this one set of scenes where Galen discovers the true plight of the workers, where he understands where Baltar's coming from, and where he tries to get Rosalind onto his side, and manages to wind up with a compromise, which in this kind of political theater is impressive. And it speaks to it. It's a weird jump from Laura's earlier, I will have a book burning, to, okay, I'm willing to work with you in order to keep the peace. It's kind of a stark jump, and then we see later on in the episode that she is still a reasonable level of reasonable. But I can keep going.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Galen confronts Gaius in his cell, containing now only a mattress. Baltar reveals the truth about his poor background, on a dairy farm on Erelon, having dropped his native accent after much labored practice. His words echo Tyrrell's earlier words to Rosalind, and his wife's words to him from before. Back aboard the Hite Khan, work has resumed. Fenner explains the problems that have been leading to the contaminated fuel before a malfunction occurs on the conveyor belt. Fenner explains that the jam must be cleared while the belt is running, lest a fatal chain reaction occur and the ship explode. Chief Tyrrell tries to clear it, but isn't quite nimble enough to reach. Young Danny Noon steps in and manages to reach and clear the jam, but is injured as the belt resumes function. The entire ordeal sends Galen over the edge, and he shuts down the operation personally, calling for a labor strike. In Galactica's hangar, 3 pilots, including Starbuck, are told by the deckhands that only vital missions are being serviced. The next thing we see is Chief Tyrrell being thrown in the brig, and Adama informing him that his actions are considered mutiny under threat of death. As Tyrrell argues his side, the Adama the Admiral shows how far he's willing to go by ordering Callie be taken to the starboard hangar deck to be the first shot as a mutineer. Adama continues to elaborate on how many deaths will occur if issues are not resolved, and that he would put 10 Callies up against the wall to save the fleet. Tyrrell concedes, and he instructs her to end the strike. Bill reminds him to speak his piece with Rosalind. And we'll take a break.
Yeah, I was just like, I did not know. Well, maybe we did know, but man, Adama was fucking savage.
Yep.
I mean, he was straight up savage, dude, in this exchange, in this portion of the episode. I mean, he's like, dude, I'll straight up take 10 versions of your wife, line them up against the bulkhead, and blow their brains out to make my point.
And it's weird considering how last week he almost, how much he risked to save them.
Yep.
Go from that to this in a single episode is, I understand the two weren't written that way, but it's again, it's a stark jump. There's a lot of those.
Well, see, and I think it also, you have the burgeoning relationship between Adama and Rosalind. They're close now. They're super close now by now. They're pretty much a couple without saying they're a couple. And in that aspect, when you're with somebody, and husbands, wives, those of you out there, you all understand this. When you're with somebody, even boyfriends, girlfriends, you guys know that the other person rubs off on the other person. Mm-hmm. Get your minds out of the gutter, folks. I don't mean that, but even though that there is that, but little things stick with the opposite partner, like mannerisms, or your partner could adopt your worldview. You could adopt your partner's worldview. It's very easy, but yeah, Rosalind holds a bit of sway with Adama, and he's flexed a bit toward her worldview, whereas before he was way more rigid on his. And along with that comes some uncharacteristic things, and that's how my kind of observation of it. So maybe I'm reaching, I guess, for this example, but I don't think so, because I think that factors into it.
It's certainly a good point, and I will expand on that and then offer a different point. It is, in lack of a better term, a conflict of interest where you have these two leaders who, in the beginning, were, they had their own sphere of influence that they were both in charge of, and they both respected the other's authority over their respective spheres. But now those spheres are starting to mix, and you have this. It's simultaneously good to have a unified direction in terms of your leadership. That is an excellent way of putting it. But their relationship is a conflict of interest, because now they are personally engaged and personally influencing each other's decision.
Yeah, they're judging, they're clouding each other's judgment by being together, because it does. It's hard to separate the personal from the professional when you're dealing in that setting. It just is. It's impossible. So that is a great point. Go ahead and continue, Zach. I need to step away for a second. I'm going to go grab a cup of that fresh coffee.
Okay, I'm just going to make my other point, and I'll continue reading.
Okay.
My other point was that the entire time I was watching this episode, I couldn't help but think about how, when you're introduced to the Pegasus and Admiral Kane in the previous season, how this is very, very closely, it's more and more closely resembling what the fleet would have looked like if Kane had been the one to guard or to take command of the civilian fleet. We would have had a much more heavy-handed authoritarian structure, in my opinion, if that had been the case. And this is just kind of like a taste of that. And then I will, these are the last couple of paragraphs, so I will read slowly. Aboard Colonial One, Tyrell and Rosalind continue their prior discussion over drinks. Laura reiterates that she sees the problem, but not how to fix it. After some brainstorming, Tyrell makes two suggestions. The first, a training program for highborn colonials. She agrees, but defers it, to give the labor union a chance to gain ground, revealing her intention for the entity to remain among the fleet. In the closing scene of the episode, while Chief Tyrell announces work assignments, Starbuck interrupts, storming in to gather Diana Celix, who has been allowed to pick up Viper training. As she berates Celix for being out of uniform, the chief pins wings on her lapel. The deckhands salute the new junior officer, with chuckles and smiles abound, as Starbuck continues to play hard-ass through it all. And that is the closing scene of the episode. With no ability to highlight the chat, I will just try to keep up with you guys. Proof green. So maybe Adama was losing his military bearing and good decision-making because of his relationship with Rosalind. That is my opinion, too. I believe that is what is happening. And I believe that, again, it was a conflict of interest between the two that kind of compromised them both. Which is, it's, in a black and white scenario, I think that that's, objectively a bad thing. But it is difficult to scope everything within the confines of everything that's gone on in the course of the series, and to say that we would not be affected by that. Fury Kitten. When Kane became in charge, Rosalind was released. She had no power outside of her enforcement arm and support from Adama. Yes, and again, I just saw glimpses of that when Rosalind had that book burning quote was just pure authoritarianism, and I was just like, if Kane had been in charge this whole time, none of this would have played out the same. Tyrell would have been shot immediately for mutinying, regardless of how useful he was. They would have had Marines on that refinery ship within a minute, like a hot minute. They would have just been military control of everything. Just so many things would have played out differently. And not that I want to see a what if of what that would look like, but it definitely would make for a stark contrast as to what we get in season 3. Roof Green, to quote Gaius, "You have used the whip. Now maybe try the carrot this time." Yeah, I do like how Tyrell is eventually able to, I'm not going to say convert Rosalind's idea, but he's able to get her to soften up and come up with these compromises that, well, again, while not ideal, and she states that they're not ideal in the fleet, and she admits to her own weaknesses here.
Okay, I'm back.
All right. I'm just trying to keep up with the chat. I read the last couple scenes. So.
Nice. So where are we at?
In the chat or in the script?
In the script. I'll catch up on the chat.
So we're in the script. I read the last 2 paragraphs of the last page. So this is the closing scene is where Celix gets told she's allowed to take Viper training, and everyone salutes, and Starbuck continues to be a hard ass, even though they're all joking.
Yeah. And I really liked the way that it ended on that good note. Now, what I remember of the episode, I was impressed with a few scenes back, where Rosalind and the chief had that sit down on Colonial One, and they actually found some common ground, and she made some concessions. And it was like, damn.
Yeah, he got her to solve, whether it was him or just the entire series of events got her to understand multiple points and come to some kind of agreement that, again, is not, and I explained this while you were gone, it's not ideal. And she admits that it's not ideal even for the fleet, but is a way to keep the peace, so to speak. It keeps enough people happy and satisfied to keep going without causing, massive backlash that would just instantly ground the entire fleet.
Yeah. I thought it was good, and it showed that there is amongst all the reactionary, when you take away the reactionary anger and everything that people have, and they actually sit down and hash something out, which was good, and for the good of the fleet, and yeah, listen, this really brought to the forefront again, folks, the sort of blessing and curse that a union has. Okay, because when you go and you work, especially in a production job, and I know there are some of you out there that have worked factory jobs before, probably some that still do. From the standpoint of worker safety, working conditions, it does give you needed leverage in those regards. If the employer does let things backslide and is lax on their part to provide a reasonable condition of safety, a reasonable condition of comfort, i.e. not providing, food on site, or not providing, drink, so that you have your basic needs, like staying hydrated, keeping something in your stomach during your shift, giving you your breaks. God, I can tell you some horror stories from retail, folks, where certain times I worked, I didn't get breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And this was for a company like Walmart. I'm just going to out them. I mean,
yeah, no, I've been there too.
This was for a company like Walmart, okay? And until they got under the microscope, Walmart would pull shiesty shit like that.
And they still do.
And they still do.
And it's weird in this situation because there isn't even an OSHA equivalent among the fleet with which to backslide. It's you have this weird scenario where it is in this particular episode, the two operating foremen of the refinery ship being Fenner and then the chief that control the outcome of that ship differently based on how they handle the situation.
Yeah.
Fenner tries to blackmail his way into getting what he wants, and it has the effect of getting the attention of the leadership, but it doesn't have the effect of getting what he wants. And then through the events of the episode, Tyrell manages to find the compromise that's necessary.
Well, here's the problem. Okay. And this is something that I wondered why it wasn't done in the episode. And hail to my friend Wes Moody of the Wes Moody webcast. Also, hail to Agent Decibel. Great to see you
Agent
in
Decibel,
the chat.
Great up and coming channel. Does everything with the perspective of a villain. It's an interesting take. Go check his channel out.
Nice. I wondered about this episode, and this was the fact that, like, if Tyrell really wanted to have a little bit less confrontation, he should one of the first things he should have done is requested that Rosalind and Adama come over to the Hite Khan and taken them through a tour of the current working conditions. And I think just putting a face on that
especially a young face
would have made a lot of difference. So I was surprised that he did not use that approach.
I agree. I definitely think that because he explains the ages of some of the workers to Rosalind directly, but I think getting that visual system shock of seeing that, these are absolute children handling raw minerals that are, toxic and volatile and key to the fleet. Like that would probably have been a faster resolution to the problem. Mm-hmm. But then we would have had like a 15-minute episode.
Yeah. But I mean, to me, that would have made much more sense because I don't think that it needed to be as hostile an interaction as it was, nor drawn out. It's great for the episode's sake. It's great for drama's sake. But in reality, had I been in that situation personally, if I were the chief, that would have been the first thing I would have done. And I've been like, okay, you guys need to come over here and see this for yourselves. And then we need to come to the table and make some sort of, list of guidelines and, standards, because this can't function.
So the point I made when you walked away that isn't directly tied to the episode is that I felt like when Rosalind has her authoritarian moment, I couldn't help but think how all of this situation would have played out differently had Admiral Kane been the one in charge of the civilian fleet from the entire time. And if she were the one overseeing this, how much more heavy-handed everything would have been handled. Like if Tyrell got out of the line, he'd have been shot. There would have been Marines on the refinery ship within minutes. The foreman would have been shot for sabotaging. So many things would have happened differently.
Oh, good. Yeah, she would have iron fisted it big time.
That led to Fury Kitten's comment earlier, where she wants to see a conjunctive series of Kane's story and not just the mini film. And I was curious too as to how certain. Well, we could probably theory craft that in other streams, but how certain things would have played out differently if a different admiral had been in charge.
Yeah, it most definitely would. It's definitely it definitely provides for a fascinating set of circumstances, because you start to think like, okay, what would she do and how would this look? First off, I think the fleet would have been down to a lot less ships and a lot less people. Yes, to begin with, because she would have jettisoned, I don't know how many, and yeah,
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been a good situation at
she'd have
all.
kept she'd have kept the food ship, the fuel ship, and I don't know of many others that she would have kept. She'd have been like, I need you, you, and you, and the rest of you, I'll steal whatever parts I need for my ship and then F off.
Yeah, you can F off for yourselves. Bye.
Yeah.
It's like, she may have kept that other ship because there was always this ship that showed up, guys, and people always wonder about it. I'm gonna see if I can't try to locate a picture of this and share the screen because you guys will know what I'm talking about, and we're talking about ships of the fleet here. So we'll go and look at this. This is just a picture of the plastic model kit of it, but you guys will know it instantly. Because a lot of people wondered what this is. They wondered if this was a military ship. They wondered just exactly what this was. And this ship was called the Colonial Defender. You guys will remember this
Okay.
because
Yes. Yep.
it's been in some scenes. I believe this is a ship in BSG Deadlock. I can't
It
think
is.
of.
Yeah, it's a support ship.
Yeah, it's a support ship. So
I actually just installed that game just to start playing it again. So.
yeah, she would have kept this one too, probably.
Yeah, especially if it carried the same function.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, when we were watching the series, I know, especially Mac on the old Pegasus actual forums, people had a question as to what that was. They wondered what that ship was, but I always thought that was a cool looking ship. By the way,
yeah, there's a lot of good and classic and oddball ship designs in this entire series. Like even if because I have the Colonial One model, I look at
Mhm.
some of the design choices on that. I'm like, a lot of this doesn't make sense, but
Mhm.
it's a cool looking ship. I think I've said in previous streams where a lot of these ships have like an aquatic feel to them, like they have like a sea life shape. Especially like the Battlestar itself is kind of like a squared off whale.
Yeah, Wakedown says, was looking up random facts about the episode. The original title was going to be Our Enemies Ourselves. Yeah, that would have been a pretty fascinating title within itself, too. But, I think that was too on the nose with the title, which is why they went with the other one, which is a little more ambiguous. It's kind of more common, but man, that would have been an interesting title as well. Yeah, it's definitely cool. By the way, that BSG Deadlock game, folks, that we're talking about, it is available on Steam.
Yes, it's $60 with all of the DLC now, so it's actually on sale.
Yeah, and the DLCs are worth it. Just because they provide interesting thing, and there's also a DLC that is just basically almost like a chase mode where
Operation Anabasis. That's what I
yeah,
was playing before. That's so difficult. It's
yeah,
such a difficult
it's
mode.
almost like a combination of a chase mode with no win scenario built in, where it's just like you're up against a very OP Cylon fleet, and you have to survive. But the way BSG Deadlock works, it is a strategy game. I wouldn't call it like an RTS. It's more like a turn-based strategy game. You do have to understand units. You do have to build ships accordingly. You do have to understand fleet composition and build fleets accordingly. Group fleets together in such a way that they're efficient And also, I think with Deadlock, at least in my experience playing it, Zach, it doesn't seem like commanders matter that much, except for the ones that have the CIC stuff.
Yeah, there are a couple of paths that once you go down, like once you build a fleet a certain way, I found that even at higher difficulties, I was able to just use the same fleet layout through the couple of DLCs, and then when you get some of the stronger ships later on, there's another layout that I'd stick to, and I would have that same layout for all of the missions of the story, and it worked just fine.
Dude,
yeah,
my main ships in the line, I usually use like I would go with like 4 adamants. I would use like 2 of the 78 looking battle stars, and I would use you know the Galactica type battle star, and
yeah, the
that would
Jupiter.
yeah, the Jupiter, and that was pretty much that, because I would just go and just wreck stuff with that because the
Yeah.
firepower is absolutely stupid.
Right. Yeah. So basically, what I found out is you have like one or two, you have enough ships that have the flak to cover a stack of your other ships. And if all of your other ships carry fighters, the fighters wipe everything.
Yeah,
Especially once you get assault raptors. Assault
yeah.
raptors are my favorite unit.
Fighters are the fighters in the assault raptors are ridiculously good. Um, you know, especially when you get into having like Mark twos.
Mhm.
Mark twos are just stupid awesome.
Yeah, I think for the
Fury Kitten asks us, "Do you ever do the BSG tabletop?" I have not tried the BSG tabletop. I heard that it was pretty good.
are you talking the fleet battles or the role playing game?
I think that because there's an RPG that I
There's yeah,
know, because there's that one that comes in the big box.
yeah. I know of 2 board games, and then there's like a dice rolling game.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's the board game I might be thinking of, but I haven't played any of the manual games. Fury Kitten. I've just played Deadlock, which, by the way, those of you that are big fans of the lore, uh, you know, and we definitely need to give a shout out, by the way, about Battlestar Galactica lore to our friend Nerd Cookies.
Shout
She
out to Nerd Cookies.
is doing a amazing series of videos on her channel about lore directly pertaining to BSG. It runs very much in concert with what we're doing on this channel. So, you know, I'm very grateful that she made those videos, because Elaine is very thoughtful and thorough when it comes to putting lore videos out, whether she's doing Dune, whether she's doing Battlestar. Very, very good with that. So, you know, check her series of Battlestar Galactica lore videos out. Also, you know, when it comes to the games, yeah, lore wise, BSG Deadlock is very interesting because it gives you interesting perspective into the First Cylon War and a lot of what happened there, you know, and it is definitely it is 100% an approved game. So it is technically, you know, as far as the First Cylon War canon. So please do check that out, because if you're a gamer, especially a PC gamer, I think you'll enjoy Deadlock. It's definitely a different flavor. It's a fun game to play when you're just in a chill mood. You want to relax, but you also want to challenge your mind a bit. And you can do that because it involves tactics. You have to be meticulous in the way that you space out your ships, the way you move your ships, the arcs that they have. You know, you gotta make sure that they're set up in firing arcs and everything else. So there's a lot of it tests you as a tactician. So
Yeah, and it's pretty. Above all, it is a very,
yeah.
very pretty game, especially when you zoom in on some of the models and you see the detail that goes into a lot of those models.
You know, and the funny thing about that game, Zach, is the fact that it was done by such a tiny studio with such a tiny staff, and they cranked out that good of a game. So kudos to Slitherine that put that game together, and the fact that it's just a very cool title. I enjoy it immensely. So.
So I will say this, I'm going to say it in the chat too. Good luck getting any of these games cheap for very long. The license got pulled by NBC Universal, so anyone that had the rights to make not only the games but the plastic model kits, they don't have it anymore. So everything's out of print now until they come up with something else or don't renew it.
They pulled the license, I think, mainly because of the new Peacock show, and they'll redistribute the license, and you know, I kind of have told you my folks my thoughts on it, and listen, I am still the Battlestar writer for Bounding, so when big Battlestar news breaks or there's a tidbit that comes out about it, I always throw together an article. John usually hits me up like, hey, can you put an article out about this? But I look at it that with this new show, okay, number one, all signs point to it as it's going to be what typical 2020s entertainment is. This is not going to be the epic sort of storytelling that this iteration of BSG that we're covering now had. This is going to be more of the woke scolding type of storytelling.
It'll be the Star Trek Discovery of Battlestar.
And it's sad to say, but that is where it's headed. That is where the production company that's putting it together, the guy that's at the head of all this, Sam Esmail, that's the way that he works. And I just want to temper everybody's expectations to please not get your hopes up.
I don't think it's coming, to be perfectly honest. I think the fact that they keep dropping show writers and other staff that are key to producing a good show, if it comes, it won't last. I don't think it's coming. That's my personal opinion, but I don't think at this point that it's coming. It'll be so long before they actually get it off the ground at this point, unless they have something in production that I don't know about.
I feel like and even Trisha Helfer said, as far as the 2000s cast, and hail, by the way, to PJ, our friend Orville Nation. Hail to you, buddy. Great to see you, PJ.
If you're a fan of the Orville, check out Orville Nation.
Yeah, most definitely. Orville Nation has been on fire. He dropped a hell of a bombshell in the show that he did with Andrew Moody. And he had Andrew Moody on, and they were discussing the conditions as far as what it was like to work under Kurtzman and everything that dealt with Star Trek Discovery. So, matter of fact, Bounding turned that into an article. So make sure you read the companion story and then check out that stream, that particular broadcast that PJ had. It was very good. You gain a lot of insight, and then you realize, that a lot of talent are waking up as far as, the agendas and the way that, a lot of these people just suck.
Do you know when that article was written?
That was from a few days ago.
Okay, so it's the latest one?
Yeah, it's on there. The Grace Park and Trisha outside of almost the only character every episode. Kind of. The also, as I was alluding to, uh, concerning the new, potentially new Battlestar show, as Zach alluded to, maybe it won't happen. But as far as I know, the actors privately from the show that we are reviewing right now, from the 2000 show, are not happy about it.
Nope.
They're not. And I don't expect them to be. Trisha Helper on a podcast, The Collider of all places, described it as a punch to the gut when they found out. And her and Katie are super tight. They're like best friends. So I know Katie Sackhoff wasn't thrilled. And I know that a lot of the other actresses, Tomo, I heard, wasn't thrilled about it. It just, because it really kind of shits on their work. If you think about it, oh, well, we got this new show coming. We're going to have this new cast. And then, I can just imagine what they think behind the scenes, that text chain that they have going between them all. I wonder what the hell they had to say about when the details were coming out. Oh, the new Starbucks is going to be a non-binary Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't get your hopes up, folks, because if the new Battlestar does indeed come out, it is going to be a woke vehicle.
Yeah, you'll hear about it from us probably, and and Nerd Cookies and probably a few other people.
Oh, I am going to blast the shit out of it. I will watch it to take the hit for you guys. Because
I feel the same way about that show if it ever comes out.
Yeah, because exactly, BD. You and I will sit back, we'll watch it, we'll review it, and we'll sit here. It'll probably be the same as like ETEP when ETEP does his Batwoman reviews and goes through all that misery. Yeah, we're going to go through that misery of watching the new Battlestar.
Hopefully it's not that bad.
Yeah, well, I think sadly it will be, because you got a lot of people like TDS types and just people that are like super on the woke agenda that are in charge. So I think it's going to turn out like Kurtzman Trek, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say that, but
whereas we'd rather have it be like an Orville.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little less funny, but more like an Orville.
Yeah. Fury Kitten says, I grew up with Dirk Benedict as Starbuck. That's me. Katie is now Starbuck. I'm happy with them both. They're each their own character. I love Dirk's take on Starbuck. He was a little more unserious, but I loved Katie's take on Starbuck. Tehillim says, will the woke Battlestar Galactica starship have pronouns too? It may, Tehillim. Yeah. You never know.
they can't call it she. They can't call it the old girl.
Admiral X. Wake Down says, great stream, guys. Gotta run. Y'all take it easy. Wake Down. Take care of yourselves.
Check out the Wake Down.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out our boy Wake Down. Wake Down's awesome. Do you remember when they gender and race changed Boomer? No one gave a shit because it was good. Well, listen, in the 2000 show, Fury Kitten, when they made the cast changes, now, to be fair, there was a lot of blowback initially. And I can tell you this because I was there for the great forum wars on sci-fi.com before I even started the Pegasus actual fan site at the time. We had all started off as users on the sci-fi.com forums back then. And there was a lot of pushback from TOS fans, people that like TOS Galactica were like, how dare they change Starbuck into a woman? And people didn't react so much on Boomer, but the biggest shocker was Starbuck because she was, a principal main character. Because even in the 78 show, Boomer had a fair amount of screen time, but Boomer was just, the buddy that had their backs. He wasn't.
What I remember about Katie Sackhoff's casting is that it actually wasn't even locked in until close to production. Yeah. I remember seeing it as like a behind the scenes thing where Ronald D was like, we still haven't found our Starbuck. And his wife is like, yeah, you have. She's right there. And that was what locked it in. Or at least that's what I remember.
Yeah. But the thing with the thing I remember with Boomer, it wasn't that big a deal, but Boomer, in the grand scheme, was always that support character. Now, I think Grace Park took the sort of character of Boomer to another level, gave a level of depth that wasn't present in the old Boomer. Because Boomer was just, the wingman, the guy that had Starbuck and Apollo's back. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out here how to respond to Fury Kitten's comment about why did they make Apollo such a wuss. And I think it was to kind of give Apollo more flaws, and they also didn't want to carbon copy Richard Hatch's portrayal. Really. And don't forget, they had Richard Hatch in their show. So you don't want to have too much, the same, the character almost be a carbon copy of what he did, because then, the guy might get pissed off. So
Apollo Lee does have his moments. He has several moments throughout the show where he takes charge and does what needs to be done. And granted, he does do a lot of things stupid. I like to call him Lee breaks all of his toys, Adama, but he does. He comes through in a pinch. And Boomer, she gets two really big plot points, and one of them is actually another thing that's new to the 2000 series, and that is the introduction of the Raptor. She is a pilot for one of the most versatile vehicles in the fleet, and she's also a Cylon.
I loved the Raptors, though, man. Those were such cool vehicles, and like I said, when we got a really good shot of the assault Raptors and the in the sort of in the new Caprica one, especially, you get to see some good shots of the assault package Raptors, and really and truly, I know they're a unit in Deadlock. Really and truly, it's just extra equipment on a regular Raptor.
Yeah, it's a different loadout. I think they swap out a bunch of the either the sensors or they use the sensor mounts for weapons. Mm-hmm. And they lose a bunch of their electronic countermeasure capability.
And yes, Fury Kitten, Richard Hatch was great in both iterations of Battlestar. Zarek was such a visceral character, and we're going to get into more of Zarek, because just when you think he's going to fade away, he comes back in another form, essentially, and comes back for another power play. And we're going to eventually see that. But listen, I want to tell you folks, next week is a huge episode. During the week, I am going to try to effort to get some big heavy hitters, big name guests. I'm going to reach out to some contacts that I have, see if I can't get a big name guest for next week. Somebody involved with the show. I'll try and go through the contacts I do have, see if I can make anything happen along those channels. So we'll try to effort for a big guest next week because I want to get somebody in here, because it's a really cool episode.
If something changes and I can support next week's episode, I will be sure to let you know as soon as possible. Again, I'll try to write the script, but if I'm back in time and can support, I will definitely let you know.
Yeah. And next week, Culture Casino should be back, as well as we should have, if he can be here, we'll have probably, Scott in here, just a normie. And sure kidding. I wanted a Romo Lampkin. Romo Lampkin was very good. That actor is just really good. So, next week is the episode Maelstrom, and all I can say, folks, is you're not going to want to miss that. You're not going to want to miss that discussion. So, we'll see where things are at, but make sure that you check out next week's Pegasus Actual podcast, because that's going to be a barn burner. And all I can say is, listen, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And until then, hey, don't despair. We'll go over to Zach. I'm going to let him plug his channel and talk about what he's got going on.
So hi, everyone. I'm Brightest Day. I'm going to drop my link in the chat here before I forget. Next week is going to be a weird week for me. I will be out of state, so unfortunately I will not be producing any content. But on a normal basis, I have a Sunday open forum stream where I open my stream to the community who can promote their own projects and passions and upcoming content. Mondays, I am on Ironcaster's channel for the Mobile Suit Gundam Roundtable, where we discuss Mobile Suit Gundam in a forum like this, which is also very fun. Tuesdays, I usually do a Gunpla build stream or a model building stream of some kind, which is usually later at night on a Tuesday. It's pretty fun. Thursdays, I am here. Between Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I try to do some kind of retro gaming stream. And then throughout the rest of the week, I kind of do just random stuff. So.
Yeah, and listen, folks, BD is so good at breaking things down and explaining them, and that's what I respect about the man so much.
Thank you.
Also, just when it comes to doing this show together, man, we found great ground immediately because he's such an informed fan, same as Roof Korean, same as most all of you that watch this show in the chat. Everybody's bringing great points every week, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's why I fell in love with this show, is the fact that the chat was so active and everyone is so knowledgeable. I'm super thankful that you have me on the show. I cannot express my gratitude enough.
And shout out, hail, Razvan. Great to see you, buddy. Also, hail to Japo of Dick's Division. And don't forget, folks, those of you that pay attention and watch Comics Division every week, the Thursday Night Throwdown, I will be over there shortly. I may get in there a little late because I'm going to try to squeeze in having a late meal here. But I'll be over there on Comics Division's channel. And I'll be on Thursday Night Throwdown, as I always make it known there. # Dick's Division, always.
Dick's Division, sound off.
That's right. And we can't forget the Vag Guard. So yeah, if you folks are up, you want to catch something cool, go over there. We will be talking some current events and relevant issues. I also want to thank everybody that turned out for the stream last night. I know it was late. I wanted to definitely, I had a lot of thoughts on Wes's content being removed. And I put out some pretty fiery tweets calling out YouTube today. Not gonna lie. So,
Just begun.
exactly. So, hail games, movies, comics, or us. And Nigel, great to see you. All right, folks. On that note, we're gonna get on out of here. But again, take care of yourselves and each other. So say we all.
So say we all.